did a talk for 2,200 people in Warsaw, Poland on Friday, and I'm going to be speaking to 15,000 people in Southeast Asia later on this week. So this Zoom thing is a real communicate. And then Ted, you called me right in the middle of this, so I'm really delighted to be with you. Ted and I go back so many years, back in the normal days.
That's exactly right.
And which, by the way, will come back. Human beings are very motivated to improve their lives. That is the great motivation of human behavior. And so we're going through all kinds of problems today. But as soon as the pressure lightens up, things will go back to where they were. And it's not going to take 10 years. It's not going to change the world forever. Things are going to change very quickly because everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to earn more money. And so people are going to be very aggressive about it. And people like you and I, we recognize that the only way to be successful is you've got to work your, off. And so we are prepared. As soon as you give us an opening, like a football player running for yards, as soon as you give us an opening, we are going to go through that opening and achieve our goals and earn more money. We'll be smarter as a result of this coronavirus in different ways, but there's certainly nobody's going to be sitting on the sidelines weeping and crying. So I don't think personally, I read it today and you see it, it's going to take 10 days to get back, 10 years to get back to normal. Yeah. Not a chance. Yeah, I think we'll be back to normal by the end of this year.
For sure.
We're honored to have you, Brian. We're honored to have you. So
we are. Yeah. So a couple of things I'm going to do. Before we get started with the introduction, I do want to show you something real quick, Brian. This was from 2004. Let's see if it will pull up here. There it is. That's wow. That's at that last event that we did. That's me with the mustache there with darker hair. So I thought I'd share that with you.
Well, that's great.
Great to see you again. And then at the end of this, if you do have time, one of the things that I do is I do these little things on video.
Yes.
I share quotes from you and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar on a rotating basis. And I put together a little slide presentation here. Hold on just a second. That was the other one here.
Yes.
This one right here. That I would be honored if I could say, "Hey, everybody, it's Gene, and I'm going to do the quote of the day from the excerpts from the Treasury of Quotes by Brian Tracy." No, wait. Actually, I have a special guest here who's going to do it himself, and then have you read that, if you would.
Would you like me to do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
That'd be
3,
great.
2, 1. The establishment of a clear central purpose or goal in life is the starting point of all success.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to lead us in. Brian, I'll lead us in, and I'll say you're going to be coming out of a break. So I'll welcome the audience back. I'll introduce Ted. I'll say your name. And then after I get done talking, Ted will then actually introduce you. Okay. Right. And I will go off camera.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me.
This is a 15-minute segment, approximately.
Yep.
Okay, great.
So let me know when you are ready for me to roll.
I'm ready. I am ready. Born ready, as they say.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Gene Girdley with Ted Ings. And Ted, our next guest truly needs no introduction. Both you and I have had the privilege to meet him before and to share in his wisdom and leadership for decades.
Gene, absolutely. Brian Tracy has consulted for more than 1,000 companies and addressed more than 5 million people in 5,000 talks and seminars throughout the U.S., Canada, and 70 countries worldwide. He is the author of over 70 books that have been translated into dozens of languages. We first had the chance to meet you, Brian, about 15 years back. And one of the things that I want to recall is that for years, literally, after Brian spoke at our event, every time Brian would write another book. One of the great things he did was he would always send me a copy of each hardcover book. And I have saved probably 24 of these over the years, Brian. And what a great marketing that Brian did personally, because inside every book, he would inscribe to me not just a word or two, but he would go to great lengths to write to me. And I would receive these periodically for a long time. And my favorite one, Brian, is this one here, The Power of Charm, that you wrote some years ago. And in the book, you wrote and inscribed this. You said, "Ted, you are a real charmer." So, Brian, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. I have so much respect for you and for the people in your circle, because they're all hard workers. I think that there's nothing more important for success than to be prepared to work hard for a long time. And you guys have always had that. You never expect anything for easy or anything for nothing. It's always you're willing to pay the price for success. And you'll make 1,000 mistakes along the way, but you just keep going forward. You just keep plowing forward, and eventually you break through. And so success is really not a big secret. It's just people become very clear about their goals, and then they just work really hard and continue working hard until they succeed. And that's what you've always done, Ted. So when you called me recently and asked me if I could appear on this show, I said yes instantly. No questions asked. So thank you for having me.
Again, Brian, a great honor. Thank you so much. Our audience today is automotive dealership, dealer principals, owners, managers who've, like everyone, have just come out of this and are still continuing to go through this COVID-19 crisis. So I thought it appropriate if you could share some words of wisdom and what to expect, because we're on the road back. We've just started.
Definitely. Well, you may or may not know, or may or may not remember, but when I was coming up in my 30s, I had the opportunity to bring the Suzuki motor vehicles into Canada for the first time. And my company, the big boss that I worked for, was worth about $800 million, and he had more than 200 companies. And I was his kind of mentee, if you like. And he asked me, the Suzuki people came to him and said, "Would you be interested in distributing our vehicles in Canada?" And he said, "Well, I'll ask my mentee, Brian." And he gave it to me, and I had crossed the Sahara Desert in a Land Rover many years before, in my 20s. And so I knew a lot about four-wheel drive vehicles, and I'd always had sort of a warm feeling toward them. So I did some research. I went out and I looked at sales, and I looked at sales figures, and I came back and I said, yes, there's a market for a less expensive, high quality four-wheel drive vehicle. And they said, good. And he said, then I'll take on the distributorship and I will turn it over to you. And so I set up 64 dealerships in all of Western Canada and sold tens of millions of dollars worth of vehicles. I set up distributorships. Actually, what I did was I appointed existing distributors to take the vehicles and handle them. But then I also set up parts departments and advertising and promotion, and went out and visited the dealerships, and I worked closely with the owners of the dealership. So I'm really familiar. Well, I'm a little bit familiar with the business of selling vehicles. One of the things we have to realize today is, and they say that the four most important words in the English language are the words, "this too shall pass." This too shall pass. And so we're going through a slow period now, and there's nothing that you can do about it except not to make mistakes. And this too shall pass. And it will pass fairly soon. More and more we're coming to realize that there's some things you can do something about and some things you can't. One of the things that I learned in success is never get upset about something you can't change. Never become upset or angry or blame people over something you can't change. Almost all unhappiness in life comes from people who are unhappy about something that happened in the past and that they cannot change. And what your job is to do is to focus on the future, is where are we now, where are we likely to be in a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months from now. And there's lots and lots of things that we in business have been resolving to do, but we just didn't have enough time. We were just so busy with doing so many things. But when we did have enough time, then by gum, we were going to do that. Well, now you've got enough time. So now it's time to read that book, reorganize, rewrite the brochure, and so on. The most important thing that I've learned in business is that in business, our key to our success is to serve others. Our job is to serve others. There's a direct one-to-one relationship. One of my favorite ratios is between how well you serve other people and how much money that you earn. And so now you have a chance to serve others. So how can you do it? What is it that people want and need right now? Get out of yourself and stop being preoccupied with your problems and look at them and what are their problems. And some things that you can do, what I do is if I can't charge for my services, I give them away. As people maybe need a special seminar. Maybe they need a Zoom seminar to help them to use your vehicles better. Maybe there is something that you can offer them that will benefit them in some way. Human beings, Ted, I studied economics for almost 40 years. And I began with reading free market economics, which was pioneered by what they called the Austrian school. And the Austrian school started in Vienna, pointed by a man named Ludwig von Mises. And one of the things that he said is that every human action is an attempt to improve your life in some way. Is that if you cannot see that an improvement will take place, you do not act at all. And a simple thing is you sit on a tack. Well, you jump up. Why do you jump up? To improve your life, to remove the pain and so on. So your customers, the only reason they act is because they feel that by acting, by what you suggest that they do, they will be better off. So how can you make people better off? This is the essence of successful business, is how can you give people something that will improve the quality of their lives. So in life, we don't sell products or services, and people don't buy products or services. They always buy improvement. So your job is to say, how could we improve the life and work business of our customers today? How can we help them today? What could we do that we are uniquely situated to do that will make a difference in their lives? And very often, what will happen is something that doesn't make you any money, at least temporarily. But the biggest and most important part of business is trust, is that people like you and they trust you. And therefore, they may not be able to take advantage of buying your products today, but the more they like and trust you, the more open they are to buying from you in the future. And the most successful people in business are people who have built up and maintained high levels of trust throughout their career. And so whenever I see any kind of movie that shows crooked business people doing well, it just aggravates me, because it's not possible for crooked business people to do well in the long term. Is they may do well in the short term, but the most successful people are people who people like and trust because of months and years of reputation. So you have to, coming back to the principle of service, how can you serve your existing customers or your potential customers? What can you do for them? What can you give them that will help them to improve their life in some way? And since you have time today and so your staff has time, then invest your time and say, well, we're going to have online programs to help you to get more out of the vehicles that you have. And you may even have seminars on how to buy a vehicle, a new vehicle, and what you think about. If you're buying a car for the first time or for the 10th time, what are the most important things that you need to consider to make sure that this is a good decision? In other words, the people who are listening to us today are the cream of the crop in the automotive industry. These are not starters, these starting people. These are people with years and years of experience. And all you need to do is you need to go into this mine of information and knowledge and experience and say, what can we do to make our customers happy? Aristotle, you get me in a role here, but Aristotle was the greatest philosopher in human history. They said that after Aristotle, for the next 2,000 years, all philosophy was merely a commentary on Aristotle. And Aristotle came up with some insights that were really quite phenomenal. And one of them was that the major driving force in human life is the desire to be happy. Everything that we do in life is to be happy in some way, to be happier than we were before. And by the way, let me do a quick aside. I've written 86 books. And so I'm always thinking, what will my next book be? I've come up with my next book this last week. I have 2 books to complete and 1 book, brand new book. And one of the things I'm thinking of writing about, and I'm going to call it the factor, the ER factor, like emergency response or whatever. The ER factor says that everybody in life acts because of They want to be happy. They want to be rich. They want things to be easy. They want things to be faster, better, cheaper, and so on. And as a business person, your success is totally determined by the that you can give to your clients. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that my customers want? What improvement do they want that they will buy from me, or that I am uniquely situated to offer? And here's an interesting discovery, Ted. I just discovered it recently after decades, is that human beings will buy a product or service, and 100% of the reason they buy is to be better off than before, improvement. And there are many things that our friends can offer that in the cars, trucks, vehicles that we offer that will create an It'll be faster, better, cheaper, more attractive, and so on. It's always the comparative. Always think of the comparative in the English language is they want to be more than they are now. So, however, I found this, and I don't know, I read everything, Harvard Business Review and so on. But what they said was that there are many different reasons why a person would buy a car, but there's a thing called single attribute factor. The single attribute factor says that people will buy a car for a single reason. That is the one reason that's more important than any other. The others are important. I mean, they want to be sure to get good service and proper attention and everything. But there's always one thing that is the nickel dropper. It's the one thing that causes people to buy. So here's something I tell my salespeople. If you want to increase your sales dramatically, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find out why it is that people buy your product or service in the first place. And 80%, that 80-20 rule works. If you had 100 customers and you ask them why they bought your product from you, 80 of them will say the same reason. So there may be 10 or 15 reasons why a person would buy a new car from you, but there's always one. And out of 10, it'll be 8 customers who will probably say the same answer. 180 customers. The 80-20 rule is not always perfect, but you don't bet against it. So what can you do today if you own a business? Well, what you do is you go back and you do a market research program amongst your past customers. And they can be your past customers. You can be new car buyers, used car buyers, service buyers. What are the different services, products and services that you offer? And call back and just have your salespeople do this, have your secretaries, your staff, they have time on their hands, is call them up and say, we're doing a market research study here, and we just wanted to call you and tell you that we really appreciate your buying from us. And we wanted to know, you could have bought from many other companies in the market today, but you choose to buy from us. And we just wanted to ask you, of all the reasons why you would have or you could have bought from us, what was the one reason you chose us rather than anyone else? What was the one reason? And then you just go dead silent. And most customers have never been asked this question, so they're forced to think about it. And so you just be perfectly silent and wait and let them think and turn it over in their mind. And they'll say, well, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, the reason I decided to buy from you rather than from someone else, or buy this vehicle rather than a different vehicle, was this. And they will hand it to you, almost like handing you a gift. And if you ask 10 customers this question, 8 out of the 10 will give you the same reason. And in most cases, this is the shocker. You hadn't heard that before. You didn't know. You did not know that this was the critical reason. This was the unique selling factor, the hot button that caused people to buy from you. And then from then on, when you sell and you talk to customers, you use what I call a by the way. By the way, we have asked our customers in the past, why did they choose to buy from us rather than from someone else? And they've given us a whole bunch of reasons, but the 3 most common reasons that people tell us they bought from us are reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. And would any of these reasons apply to you? And the customer says, yeah, reason 2. Reason 2 is that would be more important to me than anything else. And they have just told you how to sell to them. They've just told you the nickel dropping. They've just told you the closing technique. And it's so simple, and it's low key, no pressure, low pressure. It's really friendly. Here's the 3 most popular reasons why people buy from us and continue to buy from us year after year. Would any of these 3 reasons be important to you? And they'll tell you. They'll say, yeah. Or, and it can happen, but it's very rare, or they'll say, well, actually, the real reason I bought my last car was because of this. And they will tell you what you need to convince them of to make the sale. And so right now you have a time where you can't make sales because all the problems of people getting in and getting out, but you can ask them questions. And don't ask them to try to sell them anything. Just ask them for their advice. Ask them for their guidance. We really appreciate you buying from us. And we know you could have bought from different companies. And could you tell us the one reason? And then another question is, call them up and say, thank you very much for buying from us in the past. Is there anything that we can possibly do for you at this time that would help you out? Do you have any problems or difficulties that we can help you out with? And here is the truth. The truth is that every customer is mad about something. Every customer has got something that they're unhappy about, that they bitch about. And if that complaint remains, they won't buy from you again. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you say, is there anything that we can do? Any problems, difficulties, anything at all? And they'll say, nobody wants to complain. As we say, excuse me, but we're all car people. They don't want to get into a pissing contest with you. So they're not going to tell you, I'm mad because of this, or you did do this and you let me down here and I expected this and I didn't. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to call you up and rain on your parade. But if you ask them and you invite them and say, please, is there's anything that we could do to make you happy? Keep coming back to happy, because happy is a kind of a conceptual word, and everybody wants to be happy. If you call them up, you're making basically a happiness call. Is what can we do? Is there anything that causing you any problems or concerns that we can do? Because we really want you to be happy. We really want you to be happy. That just destroys people's resistance. You are calling me because you want to help make me to be happy. That will cause people. One of my favorite lines in Shakespeare is, bind them to you, and your friends once tried, bind them to you with hoops of steel. And what you want to do is you want to bind your past customers to you with hoops of steel. Because who are the people who are the most likely to buy again? It's people who bought in the past. And every single person who has bought in the past knows 10, 20, 30, 50 people who can buy. And one of the things that I've done in customer service is I found that instead of advertising with billboards and newspaper, television, everything else, the easiest person to sell to is a person who's already bought. And so therefore, instead of advertising to get new customers, brand new customers who have never bought from you, what you do is you focus on your existing customers and on making them happy. We just want to make you happy. Here's a you all know of Carl Sewell's Cadillac dealership. I mean, just any car person who has not read that book should be beaten with a stick. Customers for life. If you haven't read Customers for Life, you're letting the side down. And his whole focus is make your customers happy. Make them happy, and whatever they want, whatever they need, whatever it is, make them happy. But one of the you don't know all the stuff that's in there. One of the things my clients tell me this, is to bind them to you with hoops of steel. Give them your personal phone number. Give them your personal phone number and say, call me anytime, 24 hours a day. And great way you can do it, if you are the owner of your dealership or a senior executive, is go back and phone your most recent customers going back a year and call them up and tell them you really want to express your appreciation. You really thank them for buying from us. And by the way, if you ever have any problems at all, I want to give you my personal phone number. And you can call me anytime, 24 hours a day. And I promise you, I'll take care of it. Whatever it is, I'll take care of it. And give them their personal phone number. And here's what we have found, you all know this, is that 99% of the time they'll never call you. But they know they've got your phone number. You are the main person, and you gave them their personal phone number. And what do they think they're going to tell other people when they talk to them? Hey, I bought my car there, and the president gave me his personal phone number. I can call him anytime. And now what is likely to happen? Well, the person is saying, well, I've been thinking to get a new car. Da, da, da. Oh, geez, you should call my friend. I've got his phone number. I'll call him. And he'll call him and say, look, I've got somebody here, good friend of mine, and he's thinking of getting a new car. Can you help him out? The rule is get every single one of your customers to be your own salesperson. So they're out selling for you. They're out telling other people what a great experience they've had in dealing with you. And these things, surprise, surprise, don't cost anything. What they cost about here, you've heard of the golden rule, which is considered to be the most important single principle of human relations ever discovered, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Is so you say, well, what would you like other people to do to you? Well, I would really like them to do this or that or something else. Okay, do it to everybody. Treat everybody the same way. And just think, what can I do? And get together and imagine that these are your best friends. Imagine these are your children, your mother or father. Think of all the things that you can do, and then focus on taking care of your existing customers. And so your existing customers are so happy, they want their friends to have the experience of buying from you. They want to think, I want my friends to have the same experience that I've had. So these are the things that you can do. They don't cost any money at this time, but you have lots of customers. You can go back a month, you can go back a year, you can go back even longer than that. Remember, most customers are unhappy with their existing supplier of anything. They've all got something wrong. You go to a good restaurant, and if you go to a good restaurant, the manager will always come around toward the end of the dinner, come around early, come around toward the end, and he'll ask you, how is everything? Is there anything we could do better next time? Is there anything that you'd like to change? And they'll tell you, well, I had this, I had that. Take it off the bill, replace it, thank them very much, give them an after dinner drink, something like that. Because the easiest customer to get to buy from you is an existing customer. So what you do is this is a customer you don't want to lose. Look how much it costs you to get this customer to come in and buy from you. You know the numbers, but the numbers that I've seen in selling cars is that a person who's going to buy a new car goes to 10 dealerships and selects 3 and chooses 1. It's 10-3-1, 10-3-1, 10-3-1. Now, these numbers come from the automobile associations and so on. So that means a person comes in and they're going to look at 9 different people, or they're going to look at 9 more in addition to you. and then they're going to sort it down to 3 and then buy one. Well, we want to be sure to be that one. and, and then once they have bought from you, you want them to buy from you for the rest of their lives. You don't want them to ever think of going anywhere else. You want to be the Carl Sewell customers for life. You want to just be thinking all the time. And you tell them, is once you've bought from us, I remember somebody telling me this years ago. I was buying a suit, and he said, look, he said, I don't want to just sell you one suit. He said, I want to sell you your suits for the rest of your life. I don't want you to ever go anywhere else for the rest of your life. There's anything that you want or need, anything you need changed, anything else at any time. And he was true. He was really, he meant it. And surprise, surprise, I never bought from anybody. And he sold expensive suits. His average suits were like $1,500 to $2,000. And I still have the suits that I have and the suits that I wear in front of my audiences were suits that came from him. And he not only made a promise, here's one of my favorite discoveries. I wrote a book called Branding. Actually, it's not a book; it's an audio program, and it's the 21 Secrets of Branding. And because your branding is the most important thing that you have. It is how people think about you when your name is mentioned, how people think about you when they go out to their car, how people think about you when they see your ads or other people's ads, is what is your brand. And the smartest companies are very thoughtful about their brand because your brand determines your success or failure. In other words, you're going to work a certain number of years in life. Are you going to end up rich or are you going to end up struggling? Well, your brand is going to make that decision. So here's the definition of branding, and I love it. I just wriggle when I hear this. Your brand is the promises that you make to get the sale in the first place, and the promises that you keep after the person buys from you. The promises you make and the promises you keep. And my favorite word in business is clarity. Clarity. What promises are you making? And you must be clear. They can't be fuzzy promises. Oh, we give good customer service and, we smile at people when they come in and so on. No. You've got to be specific about the promises that you make, that if you buy from us, this is what is going to happen to you. This is the kind of service that we're going to give and so on. And then afterwards, because people are skeptical of in every industry, but especially car industry. People are skeptical. You say lots of things, but what do you really do afterwards? So therefore, it's what you do afterwards that determines your whole future. And so,
quick question here. Everything that you said about buying cars also applies 100% to the service side of the cars too. Every aspect of that.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, the wonderful thing about these ideas is that you are a human being and I'm a human being, and everything that's applicable to you and me is applicable to our customers. Yeah. It's what makes us happy. What would cause us to buy again and again? What would we like our suppliers of automobiles and services to do for us? And just do that. Just do whatever you would, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and you never go wrong. And keep asking people, what can we do to make you happier? What can we do to make you happier next time? And by the way, the words next time are the great words for success. Is how can we help you next time? How can we service you better next time? And remember, there's always something that you can improve, and ask them, and they'll tell you, and then you do it. Have you guys? It's interesting. I just read an article on this in the Harvard Business Review. It's what it's called the Net Promoter Score. You guys familiar with the Net Promoter Score?
Yeah.
Oh, I read the book that they wrote on this a few years ago, and I died and went to heaven. I just love the whole thing about Net Promoter Score is asking people to grade you on a score of 1 to 10, and then doing everything possible to get a 9 or a 10. That's all you do. It's all you think about night and day. And every company that uses Net Promoter Score goes to the top of their industry. Yeah. And everybody in the company learns Net Promoter Score. So I'm sure you guys all know that. Here's
it's a new flash.
this is I think it's. Let me put on my glasses here.
I got mine too.
No, it's called The Simple Metric That's Taking Over Business by Jeffrey Colvin, and it is. I'm trying to think if it's in Harvard Business Review or in Fortune magazine. Yeah, it's in Harvard Business Review. They had a special issue, but you can get this anywhere. It's called The Simple Metric That's Taking Over Big Business. And Jeffrey Colvin, who writes for Fortune, he's a business writer, I think one of the most insightful guys I've ever seen. Wonderful guy. And basically, it's the Net Promoter Score and how every single company that's got any future at all is building Net Promoter Score measurements. Basically, the promises you keep into what they do. If you like, well, you can either get this or I will send you a copy of it.
If you can send us a copy of it, then we can get it out to our audience as well. We just put it in the handout section and they can get a copy of that. Brian, we have a few questions. First comes all the way from a viewer in Australia. After sales trainer Kieran Stack asks, what has been your biggest or maybe even newest lesson from the downtime during COVID-19?
Well, I'm real simple is I just focus on service. And probably a very simple example, Ted, it's been years since you've spoken to me, years and years and years. And so he had this idea, well, I'll call Brian and see if Brian would come and talk to some of our friends. And Ted has also written the check to pay for me when he had me come in. And he knows that I charge a lot for, and I won't tell you how much I get for doing this sort of thing for my clients all over the world. However, I have a rule that I have developed, and it is before you ask, the answer is yes. And so when Ted called up and reminded me who he was, and I remembered him clearly, the answer is yes. Whatever you want, the answer is yes. No debate, no nothing. Just the answer is yes. The only thing that matters is timing. And so what I would say to Kieran is it's the same thing. Whatever your customers want, the answer is yes. And if you can't sell them something, give them something. And what you give them is you give them service, and you give them warmth, and you give them support, and you ask them if they have any problems or concerns, and everybody does. You know, whenever a person says, how are you feeling? How's your health? Well, everybody's got an ache or a pain somewhere, and everybody's ever bought a car from you has got an ache or a pain, has got a problem. And so if you can't sell them something, then take away their ache or their pain and say, I'm so sorry to hear that. By gum, we'll take care of that right away. So give me some information here. Let me write it down. And here's what they found with the Net Promoter Score. The simple metric is that when they ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our service to you? If the customer gives you a 9 or a 10, it means that they will buy from you again. They like you. They're happy to buy from you again. If they give you a 7 or an 8, it means they're neutral. If they give you a number of 1 to 6, it means that they're not going to buy again. They're on their way out the door. Mm-hmm. So the best companies, starting with enterprise and companies like that, they ask this question. Basically, every customer touch point, they ask them, "How was my service? How was my service?" I couldn't believe it. I mean, I read the book and then I rented a car, and they open up and they say, "Thank you very much for coming," and they send you out to get the car. How was my service? On a scale of 1 to 10, how was my service? Is there anything? How was the car? How was this? I mean, they were just fanatic on this. And that enterprise went from a small used car rental when your car is being repaired, place in a parking garage in downtown St. Louis, to the biggest car rental company in the world, just simply by focusing on making their customers happy. And so, Kieran, that's the main thing is, are your customers, good question, are your customers so happy that they will buy from you again and again and tell their friends? This is the most important rule in business. I got it from Peter Drucker years ago, is your first job is to make a sale. Your second job is to sell to the customer again because they're so happy with the first sale. And the third job is to get them to bring their friends. Sell again, bring their friends. And so therefore you have to ask them. And here's the most wonderful thing is if you ask your customers what you need to do to get them to buy again and bring their friends, they'll tell you. They will tell you. They say, well, if you did more of this or less of that, then that would make me happy. Just like the metric, when a person gives you a score less than 9 or 10, you say, what would I have to do to get a 10? What would we have to do to get a 10? They'll tell you. And then if you do it, and the critical thing is do it and tell them that you did it.
Yeah.
And do it as fast as you can. The speed at which you respond to your customer's concern determines how much they like you, how much they love you, how much they want to buy from you again. Human beings have this profound need for speed. They really need speed. And when you offer to do things fast, they like you so much more. It makes their heart pump custard. And so therefore, whenever a customer has a problem or a concern, get on it I call it a switchblade. Move on them fast. And they just feel happy. Your customers just feel warm all over when you do something for them fast.
Brian, Ted has one more question for you before a special announcement that we have.
Brian, this question comes from Ed Roberts at Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, Florida. He asks, Brian, what advice would you give that newly promoted service department associate to take control in a difficult situation like we're in today in order to make the biggest possible impact?
Well, the most important thing is if you're in charge of other people is sit the team down and basically say, here's our situation, and we need to work together to make our customers so happy that they come back to us again and again. And what are your ideas? What are your ideas? And you get the whole team committed to winning the Super Bowl of automobile service. And then you have, and do this every week. You have a meeting. I've run 22 different businesses in my career. And one of the things that I do, as soon as I am appointed to the position, my biggest position was a $260 million company. As soon as I'm appointed to the position, I sit everybody down and we start talking. And we go around the table and everybody asks questions, shares what they're doing, and we talk about it and we go around. And every week we sit down and shoot the breeze and talk about it. And it's amazing the cohesion that builds in your team. And you're wide open. If you've got any suggestions or ideas of any kind, bring them to me and let's implement them. And so that's what I would say. And that makes you the power in your business, but in a very, very positive and constructive way.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that, Brian. Before you go, Ted, I understand you have a special announcement to make.
Brian, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and this is only the second time in our history that we've done this, we would like to present you today with our Lifetime Achievement Award for your outstanding vision, dedication, and contributions to the automotive fixed operations community. So on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, we are presenting you with the award today. And thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Thank you so much, Ted. And thank you, Gene. I appreciate it. I love you guys. I love car people. I say with great pride all my life that I was a car guy for a long time. So thank you.
And we thank you too, Brian, so much.
And remember the 4 words.
Okay.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. That's great. Thanks.
Brian, thank you. I've made arrangements with Michelle. We're shipping that out to you, so you'll have that shortly.
Thank you, Ted. And Jane, is there anything I can do for you? Any way I can help you? Whatever you ask, the answer is yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, you've made such an impact on all of our lives because I have the opportunity, and why I asked you to do that quote for me. I do this on a regular basis on social media. I'll be out in my backyard and I'll pull that book and I'll read a quote. And I'll just say, from the treasury of quotes by Brian Tracy today and I'll read your quote. And, I get maybe anywhere from 300 to 500 views a day and maybe 20 to 30 comments on it. And people just love it. So as far as what you can do, I would just say you've done it already. All of the things that you have helped us to do. When I first got into automotive sales in 1995, I had a great manager who said, here's the first thing you need to do, read. he turned me on to your books and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. And then from there, it's just become an explosion. I am a never stop learning guy. And I've got 2 of my own books about to crack right now. So.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. You're awesome.
Thank you, Gene.
So much.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man.
Be safe. Thank you.